Hi Architects on Radio 3 and Airborne, 13 past 11 o'clock for a Monday morning. Absolute pleasure now to say hi to the world's only talking mime, visual stand-up comedian Paul Wildbaum, all the way from Canada, proudly. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. It's a pleasure, and to also be awake finally.
Yes.
After traveling. And
is this a tour? Is this like an Asian tour?
This is, it's actually me taking a trip to Singapore to work in a corporate dinner dance show environment, prospect contract, somewhat hellish because, you know, I have to round all the edges of what I like to call the edges of comedy and remove a lot of the intellectual content because it's meant to be more pure entertainment. Luckily for me, I found some people like in Singapore, Comedy Masala.
Yeah.
And I found Michael here, who are into real comedy. So I have a chance to let off steam and just go, wow, no restrictions, just be funny and not worry about what I say and whether people get intellectually stimulated.
This is weird.
Oh my God!
Let's talk about this for a second. It's really weird. You could say to a comic, keep it fairly clean. That's a polite request, I guess.
Yeah.
But saying don't intellectually stimulate people, surely that's at least half of the battle in comedy.
Well, you know, I'm dealing with this is a specific corporate environment where it's made up of
one.
and in Singapore, and you know, as William Gibson, who said Singapore is basically Disneyland with a death sentence, you know? And I sort of feel that way, because the longer I've been there, the more I see everything is so gently smoothed over and made nice, and, you know, food-wise, culture-wise, everything operates so efficiently that, you know...
unless you want to get a taxi anyway.
Well, or unless, you know, you want to question something. And then people sort of go blank and stare at you.
A gig's a gig.
But a gig is a gig, and I'm making money, and I found these wonderful outlets where real people come to listen to real comedy. So Masala, Blue Jazz, I've been going to those places and working with my real act.
You're going to have a ball in Hong Kong because you know everything goes here, which is absolutely brilliant. You've got a show tonight at Salon de Ning in Peninsula Basement, and tomorrow a joint I've not heard of before. It's called Fill the Blank in Queens Road East.
Yes, I just visited it myself. Lovely art room. It's going to turn it into a mini theater, sort of art box theater. Mm-hmm. So, in a way, I'm kind of looking forward to that because it's set up for me to do all my visual stuff.
Check it out on comedy.hk because it's one of their gigs as well. So, you know, the whole thing about tell me your shtick, if you like. Keep the intellectual thing. You've got to challenge people a little, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely.
When you think of the world's your favorite comics, if you like.
My favorite comics are people like Stephen Wright. Sometimes. Sorry, I just having a little fun. I wanted people at home to be banging their radios going, this stupid thing isn't working. The hell's happening? I was just getting interested. The guy...
This is Radio 3. That happens all the time.
I'm sure. But, you know, I like Stephen Wright. You know, Mitch Hedgeberg, I used to love him. You know, we were friends. Used to hang out when he came to Canada and would do his sets. I love that sort of, you know, dry, crazy delivery. But then I also like old school guys. You know, I mean, I loved, growing up watching even guys as old school as Red Skelton because I love visual comedy.
Yeah.
And that sort of classic. Tommy Cooper. Huge fan of Tommy Cooper.
Yeah.
And, you know...
Fantastic. It's all logical humor, isn't it?
Well, you know, Cooper I love because he has these like his crazy, you know, last time I came to Hong Kong, I broke my arm in 3 places.
Yeah.
I went to see a doctor. I said, what should I do? The doctor says, don't go to those places anymore.
Exactly.
I go, that's so funny to me.
It's so funny.
It still holds up.
You know, it's interesting, though, a lot of these guys, if you look back, hilariously funny, but really troubled personal lives.
Well, that's what makes me feel okay about my life. You know, it gives me some hope. You know, if nothing else, at least I'll have some success.
Do you reckon a comic has to be a commentator? Of course, I'm thinking about George Carlin. For me, that's the number one.
Yeah.
Does a comic have to look at what's going on in the States at the moment? Look at what's going on in the world at the moment. I could imagine if Carlin was still alive, he would be going for that big time.
I think ideally that's where you go. I mean, that's where you know it's also the most crystalline. Extraordinarily power-packed, emotionally packed event of what's going on in the world. I mean, the fact that, like was it recently 28 kids shot in a school in the States. And I'm living in Canada, fairly peaceful. So I cross over to the States quite often.
Yeah.
And first thing I'll hear when I cross over, this always kills me. Do you have any weapons?
Would you like some?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going, no, you got any for me? Because, look where I'm going.
It's incredible. I mean, the difference that you say between Canada and the Americans make fun of you guys.
They do, but...
They're welcome, yeah?
But then, on the other hand, they die more often than we do, so...
This is absolutely true. Tell me a bit about the whole sort of talking mime thing. This
is kind of a strange thing I developed because most people who do mime, it's horrible. I mean, most mime is equivalent to a bad karaoke singer. Because somebody takes a 2-week workshop and then they learn to paint their face white and they put little lines on their face and they go, okay, I'm a mime now. And so you get to see bad mime after bad mime after bad mime. It's kind of like someone takes a week workshop in acupuncture and then they hang up a sign.
Yeah.
Don't go get treated and don't go see a bad mime. And when I see a bad mime on the street busking, like I will pretend to put money in his hat, but that's as far as it goes. And I did busk. I tried to busk, and I was busted by a cop who said, you have the right to remain silent. So I just laughed out loud in his face. I said, look, what are you working with? And, but no, after a couple of years, I started learning. I was interested in using my, talking.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole other world with talking.
Truly.
And then you can combine this with this visual concept of mime, so I can do this. Although it's hard to see on the radio, this combination.
Yeah, that's your next gig.
But I can go look. The Wall, famous mime piece where a guy pretends he's behind a wall. In Marceau's case, it was a box.
Right.
And it was a metaphor. The box represented middle-class man being encased by life. Piece written by Alejandro Jodorowsky, maniac Mexican filmmaker who was briefly a member of Marceau's company and wrote the 2 best pieces that he ever performed.
See?
And Marceau passed, unfortunately, in the midst of doing the box. He couldn't get out and suffocated or something, I don't know. So I'll do a little gag, The Great Wall of China, my version of Marceau. And I'll be like... And I'll go on for about 5 minutes. I'll look at my watch going, this is a rather long piece. I hope you folks don't mind sitting and watching for a couple of months. So it might be as simple as that. But then it also might be...
See, that's intellectually challenging. You could that makes people think you'd get chucked out of Singapore for that. Or at least the cane.
Well, I would get chucked out of the corporate gig because the corporate gig has... The bosses are giving... mega course Chinese dinner to their workers.
Yeah.
This is in lieu of a raise.
Yes.
So, they'll have a memory of this mega course dinner 6 months down the road. But they're there to drink, impress the bosses, have a little fun, and they're also eating while I'm performing, which is a first for me. I've never had people eat while I'm performing.
It's hard to get your head around.
It's pretty tough, especially since I'm not. If I was eating and performing, that would be okay too, because then I could play with the food. But no, and there's also, I'm not allowed to pick any of the executives, which is another first.
So at the gig today, if you want to eat whilst he's on, give him some as well.
Yes, that's exactly right. If you want to drink or eat, as long as I'm joining you, you're welcome to do whatever you want. In fact, if you want to make out, just invite me along.
Get you some as well.
Just as long as I can participate, you're fine. And if you feel like heckling or dancing, that takes place outside, not in the gig, but usually that takes place outside the venue.
Okay, that sounds fair. Those are the rules. And that's tonight at Salon de Ning at 8 o'clock. Now then, how did you get to this? Obviously, sometimes have the best ideas of our lives and half asleep or something. But how did all the roads cross for you? The mind, the comedy, the physical?
I started off doing inspired. I want to be a physical performer. I want to work in coffee houses.
Right.
Cabaret. I want to work in... There were no clubs when I started. There were no comedy club scenes. So I wound up going to poetry readings and doing my crazy bits, or going to folk clubs and doing bits. And I found that I was not good at following the rules. So I would, they would introduce me. And I found, I'm going to go up and do some bit. So I started emptying my pockets, because I used to carry notes, toys, things, and I found that I was getting big laughs out of emptying my pockets. And I thought, oh, I found something here.
Yeah.
So what did I find? Well, I found I could do 15 minutes of emptying my pocket before I got to the stage.
That's very Andy Kaufman, isn't it?
And I go,
Awesome.
yeah, there's something. So I went to see a bunch of teachers, and I find out what is that impulse from, and Euro teachers and buffoon, clown, mime, this new vaudeville stuff. And I went, this is what I want. Then I found stand-up, and I found really hard-edged, really interesting, great independent way of writing and expressing yourself. It's all about, the thing I love the most is it's you exhibiting all your eccentricities and your independent and unique habits, and that becomes the gist for your comedy. It's your worldview.
But this, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but I can't imagine there are too many people in the business who do exactly what you do. But you sort of, it grew. It just happened, didn't it?
Yeah, it just, and really from all, I met this person, I met that person, I found myself working in mime theater, then I found myself working in stand-up. They said, you can't do mime in stand-up room. I'm sorry, man, you can't do visual stuff.
Off you go.
Can't do props. I went, you know what? Yes, I can.
Yeah, you got it. There are bits and pieces that people, I'm asking you what you learned and how you learned it and stuff. But stuff like commedia, the traditional stuff, did you do all that as well?
I studied it in a very traditional sense. I had a commedia dell'arte teacher from Italy.
Now tell me the key of that, the real ABC.
Spontaneity.
Yeah.
And prepare nothing.
Sounds good.
Know who you are, know where you are, know your goal, and come out with confidence and deliver a line. Don't try to be funny. Commit to character in a situation and circumstances.
That is awesome. In everyday life, we say our funniest things when we don't mean to. If you say something and you think you're being honest and somebody rolls up laughing next to you, that's got to be the purest form.
I had a whole bit that came from someone coming up to me in a comedy club and telling me they just had watched the Malcolm X movie. So suddenly I wrote a bit about Roman numerals based on that little springboard moment.
Have you seen Eclivitives? Fantastic. What's going on after you finish this bit here in Hong Kong and Singapore?
After Hong Kong, Singapore, I go back to Canada for a while.
Yep.
And I'm waiting to hear from the Moisture Festival.
The Moisture Festival?
In Seattle. The biggest variety burlesque cabaret festival in the world. Fantastic. That takes place in Seattle in early spring.
Yeah.
Guys like Avner the Eccentric, all the sort of big people in physical comedy theater. And they have a 3-week festival, which I'm trying to be part of, and you don't even make a penny. You just go there because you want to showcase, and because really super-duper people are there. People come to watch, and this opens up big doors.
It's interesting you say you don't even make a penny, because I think you have to have that mentality. Go to Edinburgh, you don't possibly make a lot of dosh. You might get some of the door money back, but it's not for that, is it?
No, not at all. Edinburgh just leads to a springboard for other international stuff. Every time I've done one, springboard something else. Like as a result of doing my work here, now I've got connections in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting connections in Malaysia. This opens up this part of the world for me in a way it hasn't been open before.
That's absolutely awesome. Do you do any teaching per se yourself?
A lot, actually.
Yeah, you do
now.
classes. What kind of stuff?
I call it physical comedy. Yeah. In a pinch, I will teach people classical mime. If they want to learn that, I will teach them some commedia stuff. But I call it physical comedy because I like to combine the things I've learned from half a dozen different people and my own crazy ideas and inventions.
Even that's a bit academic, because you say physical comedy, and of course the next thing would be physical theatre, and I mean that's massively popular now. But are you doing your version of it?
I'm basically doing my version of it, absolutely. I'm doing what I discovered, which comes from Frau Til, my wonderful antique mime teacher, and who was movement director with Bertolt Brecht. So anybody who knows theater knows. Big deal. Just
so we know, Tilthiel. So this is somebody who you'd say, one of the absolute doyens.
Absolutely.
And what would be your one takeaway from your time
with Til?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. If you move your little finger, your whole body's involved.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense indeed. Check out Paul's stuff. It's paulwildbaum.com, PAULWILDBAUM. Quite a big website there, so all the stuff's on there, right?
Radio.
Congratulations, Paul. It's going to be a fantastic couple of days here in Hong Kong. Best of luck. Come back next time.
I will. Come see me.
All right, it's tonight at Salon de Ning at the Peninsula Hotel at 8 o'clock. And tomorrow evening at a place I've never heard of, and I've lost it now. Oh, yeah, tomorrow evening at Fill in the Blank. It's 231 Queens Road East. Here we go.
To lie on the wings of love.